Hello and welcome to another episode of Good Morning Pattaya, Pattaya Channel's very own breakfast show. I'm your host, Nick Pendrell, and joining me once again on our incredibly comfortable sofas.
It is a very comfy sofa, Nick.
How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you, very well. Very glad to be here.
Nice to see you here. And it's also nice to see our guest of the day, who is Tim from Regents International Pattaya. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, to start, tell for everybody who doesn't know what Regents International is, tell us all about it.
Okay, well, we are a British international day and boarding school based about 10 kilometres outside of the centre of Pattaya. Right. So we're on the outskirts in Banglamung. We've been around for 20 years or so now, and we have currently about 1,100 students on roll, aged between 2 and 19. So we're the biggest school on the eastern seaboard. But it is. I mean, there are bigger schools in Southeast Asia, I can assure you, but it's the right number for us, and yeah, it's a great place to work.
Yeah, I can imagine. And what is your function within the school?
I am head of admissions and marketing. So my responsibility is essentially to drive student recruitment into the school.
Right. And is there plenty of people? Do you have space for everybody, or is it a constant effort to find new pupils?
Certainly not an effort. I mean, interestingly, we've grown by 10% a year for the last 2 years. So when I joined 18 months ago, we had 960 students on roll, and we're going through a real popularity spurt. We're on just over 1,100 now.
Right.
We still have the capacity to take a couple of hundred more, and we're a boarding school as well, so we can certainly double in size in terms of our boarding population. So the demand is there, the capacity there, and I suppose one of the things that we're getting to grips with is why that sudden increase in popularity. And although we've been around for 20 years, I think it owes a lot to the fact that 2 years ago, we were acquired by a big global education provider, North Anglia Education, and their investment in the school, both in terms of educational excellence, but in terms of the facilities as well, have meant that we're being looked at by a lot of families, both those who relocate to the area, but because we're a boarding school, families around the world.
What percentage of your students are boarders versus the day ones, dailies?
Small right now, about 10% or so.
Okay.
So we are principally a day school, but North Anglia Education owns 2 other boarding schools around the world, College Champétain, College Beausoleil in Switzerland, 2 very prestigious boarding schools. And so they've got a taste for boarding now. They want to see our boarding community grow. And so as a consequence, they invested about $600,000 US into our boarding facilities over the summer holiday. They're looking great.
Right.
So, they've set us a tough target. They want us to double our boarding population within the next 3 years or so, and I'm pretty confident that we will. I've just come back from trips to Beijing and Russia and Frankfurt, and there's a great deal of interest in what we're offering.
Right. So you've mentioned some of the cities that you're actively looking for students from. What kind of nationalities do you split is there at the school?
Well, that's the lovely thing about being a boarding school, is that we're not just reliant upon the nationality mix of the local area.
Yeah.
There's a much bigger flavour to it. So we've currently got around about 50 different nationalities represented within the student body. Of that, native English speakers make up the biggest proportion. So when you combine the Americans and the Canadians and the Australians and so forth, they represent about a third.
Right.
Our Thai population, Thai speakers represent the next third, and then the last third is the other 45 or so nationalities.
Right.
And we're talking everything from, we have the single student from Afghanistan, another one from Nepal, up to a decent number of students from South Korea, from India, from Russia, and elsewhere in the world.
Right.
And it makes it a really interesting place to work. It's part of the reason why I relocated to Pattaya, because I was based in the UK with my sons previously. Lovely school, but of 125 children on roll, 125 of them had white faces and were born within a kilometre of the school. Right. And all of a sudden they're surrounded by children from 49 other countries. It's brilliant.
Yeah. It must be so nice to that they can integrate in a totally sort of cosmopolitan society.
So with the investment that they've made in the school, apart from the boarding school, what other facilities have been updated within the school? Because I know there's been quite a lot of maintenance and work done on the school.
That's right. I mean, I suppose it divides between investment, which is very visible and very evident, and investment, which is no less important, but is taking place behind the scenes. So the behind the scenes stuff includes a huge investment in the IT infrastructure, for instance. Right. It's not easy to get a high caliber internet connection to a school in rural Thailand, but we're getting there. And in part, we had to get the hardware right, and we're a long way down that line. In terms of the more visible side of things, well, we've just laid a new all-weather running track in the middle of the school, which I'm pretty sure makes us the only school on the eastern seaboard of Thailand with an all-weather running track now. We've got 2 new playgrounds. We've got brand new kitchen facilities. We've refurbished the furnishings and the fittings in all of the primary school and much of the secondary school. I mean, the list goes on quite a bit, but there's plenty more that we want to do. Frankly, it's a question of prioritising and picking off those things which will have the greatest impact upon the learning experience of the students themselves.
So presumably, if your student population is quite diverse, that means your teaching population is also equally diverse in terms of where teachers have come from?
Not particularly, because essentially what we're promising to the families who come to the school is an authentic, quality British independent education. Right. And so as a consequence, in excess of 80% of our teaching staff are fully qualified teachers flown over from the UK. Right. So they make up the bulk of our teachers. Of the other 20%, a very decent proportion are native English speakers from the US, from Canada or from Australia with comparable teaching qualifications. We then have teachers who specialise in modern foreign languages like Spanish and French and Mandarin and so forth, and they will be well qualified nationals from their country. And then we have a small tier of well qualified Thai staff who are responsible for delivering our Thai language and culture course, because of course, although we are a British international school, it's incredibly important that we help students to embed in and appreciate the culture that they're joining, and that's an incredibly important role that our Thai staff take on.
And I understand you've had a new headmaster recently, is that right?
That's right. I mean, we call him a principal because being a school of 1,100, broken down into 3 schools, we have heads of school who you might consider headmasters, if you like, and above them is a new principal. So yes, Ian Blakey, who took over from Mike Wharton over the summer. Mike had been in post for 10 years and had done a remarkably good job in terms of driving the school forward, including through that phase of change as Nord Anglia Education came on board. And now we have Ian Blakey in post, bringing his expertise, and his expertise is considerable. I mean, he was an enormously successful head teacher at grammar schools in the UK for 10 years before, at least 10 years, possibly 20 years before joining us. And he's taking his time, he's bedding in, he's listening. And you can see that what he's going to do is take all the things that we're well known for and that we're strong in and build on those and make the changes where the changes are necessary. So I think it's it's another one of those exciting changes at Regents.
Are most of your students, are they the children of expat managers? Is that where the bulk of your students come from?
A good 2/3 are, yeah. Because, I mean, as you'll be aware and your audience are aware, there is the eastern seaboard of Thailand is heavily industrialised, so we have a lot of students on roll whose parents are working anything from big companies like Ford, GM, Electrolux, Bosch, down to the smaller companies on the eastern seaboard. But a good 1/3 are either part of the local community, and that could be Thai nationals or non-Thai nationals, and then of course our boarding population as well, and they're drawn from everywhere as diverse as Armenia through to Estonia, Lithuania, France, Germany. So a good mix in there. But yes, a very significant proportion from the expat population.
So I can imagine, because a lot of these managers, they move around every few years. They tend to sort of rotate them. So does that mean that you get quite a lot of students who only come for maybe between sort of the age of 13 and 15 or something like that?
Actually, you tend to find that expats move around far more when their children are under the age of 13, because it's easier to do that transition. The older they get and the closer they're getting to public examination courses, the more reluctant they are to move around. But in terms of timescales, a kind of 2 to 3 year contract is not unusual within the international school sector, and that actually places the onus on us as a school to be extremely good at welcoming and integrating new students as quickly as we can, because frankly we're not like an independent school in the UK where we're really only taking students on the 1st of September each year. We are literally taking students on the first Monday of every year, every week of term time. So inevitably you have to be pretty good at being very personal and welcoming and settling children in as quickly as possible.
What happens after the children have finished their education with you? What do most of them go on to do afterwards?
It does break down on nationality grounds to a certain extent, in that we have my understanding is that you can secure a place at a Thai international university at the age of 16. So quite a few of our Thai students will only go to the end of year 11, that's roughly 15, 16, and then go on to a Thai international university. In terms of those who join our 2 senior high school years, and we offer the International Baccalaureate Diploma programme, the vast majority will then go on to university. And we've got a very good record of getting them into good universities as well. So, I mean, if you just look at the IB scores for the last couple of years, literally hundreds of thousands of students around the world do the IB diploma, and the average for the last couple of years, the average score has been just over 29 points. Well, our students this year averaged 33 points. And the benchmark, if you like, for an outstanding individual performance is typically taken to be 40 points out of 45. Well, 10% of our graduates this year achieved that outstanding mark. So, we've got a good record of sending students off to universities like the London School of Economics and UCLA, King's College, UCL. Probably a decent half of them go to British universities. But of the rest, they're scattered across North America, the rest of Western Europe, and of course Asia as well. I mean, universities in Hong Kong and Korea, for instance, tend to be particularly popular.
So any big plans for the rest of this year?
Well, for the rest of this year, I mean, I think the way that we do our planning is such that we've got plans for this year, but we're always looking ahead for 3 years really. So I think a significant amount of our investment in terms of improving facilities took place over the summer holidays, but you'll still see bits and pieces going on later on in the year. I think that because we have a new principal in, it doesn't mean to say that we're going to stand still, but understandably he wants just to take a little bit of time to see how the school operates and reflect upon how it can be improved and discuss those matters with his senior management team before implementing any great changes. So I think you'll see that a pretty steady ship over the course of the next couple of terms, and perhaps some exciting changes, or I'm pretty sure some exciting changes from next academic year.
The boarders, what happens to them on a weekend? What do you do with them?
Oh, I wish my social life was as good as theirs at the weekend. We are acting in loco parentis. We are their parents. And as a consequence, we have a responsibility not just to entertain, but to continue to educate them at the weekends. And so they do have an interesting array of activities that they do either locally or further afield, and that's true of the holidays as well. So they have, you might question reasonably the educational value of this, but it's just been the half-term break, and the boarders have just come back from a week's rest and relaxation in Hua Hin, for instance. So they have that side of things as well. But both at the evenings and the weekends, we also make sure that they have access to the academic facilities on site, like the music block and the art facilities and so forth. And there are teachers there available to support them with their home learning. But the important thing that I've learned from 10 years of working in boarding schools is that you can actually overload young people with too much to do. They're really busy during the week. They're working hard, particularly when they're on something like the IB course. So it's incredibly important that you just give them time to be teenagers or younger.
To just relax.
Relax, spend some time with their friends, listen to their iPod, watch movies. That's a really important dimension of it as well.
From what age do you take in boarders?
7.
7, right.
Yeah, and we actually have a much more substantial, what we would call primary age boarding population now than we did a couple of years ago. So a good 12 to 15 of our students are aged between 7 and 11. And it's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to send their children away at that age, but we find ourselves particularly popular, for instance, amongst families based up in Bangkok that actually don't want to expose their children to pollution and congestion and frankly commuting. I mean, a lot of children up in Bangkok are spending 2 hours a day commuting back and forth to school. And they know that they will have a real quality experience if they're down in Pattaya without all those things.
How can our viewers find out more information about Regents International? You've got a website?
We have, and that's the best source. So www.regents-pattaya.co.th. So I would certainly recommend that your audience goes there.
Okay, so everybody who wants to find out more, that's the place to go. Have a look at the website. Tim, thank you very much for coming in and telling us all about Regents International. Sounds like you've got some very exciting things happening and excellent standards. And for our viewers, stay tuned for part 2.